Hey, hello everyone. My name is Lucian, and I'll be talking to you about React testing. So, just by a show of hands, like who has written a test in React before? Okay, awesome. And who like writes like regularly, like as part of your job, like you're very comfortable? Okay, awesome. Okay, good mix. All right. So yeah, a bit about me. I'm a full stack and mobile since a couple of years already. I love to skateboard. And I'm passionate about soil health. So if you're curious about any of those things, chat to me. Eh, boom. So yeah, ever since like I started learning like coding, I was aware that testing is a thing, and I'm like, okay, probably I should learn this. This sounds like the professional thing to do, but the desire with like the execution is not obvious, like how to connect the two. So I could get the job done. I was doing like the manual test. I just spin up the app, click through the thing. Okay, it doesn't crash. It's fine, but it didn't like feel quite right. And I think like the biggest thing for me is like mental load. I just like feel tired at the end of the day, and it was like kind of slow. And I feel like I make progress and then I go backwards. So it wasn't great. So I decided to learn test. And what I want to share before we go into the code, like what was the challenge for me, like learning it. Uh, I made like a kind of political mistake, if you will, because I figured, okay, I don't know how to test. I would like support and like time to learn it because I tried a few times and it's not like you just write a test and it works straight away. So I was like, okay, hey company that hired me, can you like give me some time to like write a test? And that's not a great approach because you have to like make the business case and they're like ask questions. So I found that much better approach is like just like gradually like learning. And I had like a little tactic that I used for myself is like a testing wish list. So I would try to like write a test. It would like fail for all kinds of reasons. I'm like, what is this virtual DOM thing? Like, what does this fail? But I do it in the browser, it works, and all kinds of things go wrong. So I would just like take half an hour here and there, and if it doesn't work, I just move on. Like I just do the code that I have to do, and just like it took like a couple of months to learn. This was before the AI, but I think it's still relevant because it's not just the technique; it's also like why you want to test, and like the why informs the how. So I did like the little wish list. So I just offload my mental thing. Like, okay, I wish that I could test like forms, but I can't. So I'll just like put in like a wish list and just move on. So that worked like pretty good, much better than like hey guys, like can you sponsor me to like learn testing? That's didn't work. So a big influence, like when I learned about Ken dots, that's when like all the puzzle pieces they fit, and I'm like, okay, I got the light bulb moment, and I'm like, okay, like now the why makes sense, so I can like confidently like do the how. So a few of the principles is why we're doing testing is that we want to just confidence basically means like, okay, I'm delivering you the software and I know it works. Like I'm not like not sure, and I'm like just I did my work, it works, and we're good. And the second principle, like test user, is that I started with like the principle like you have to test, but I didn't go like why. So sometimes I would like test for the sake of testing, and really like testing should be like a tool that serves you and not the other way around. So without this guiding principle, I would end up like fixing the test when I can see that like the program works. Like I tested manually, and I was just like wasting time, and it was like, but with this guiding principle, it kind of helps clarify like what should I test and what should I just not care about at all. So the two users are like the end users, like someone comes to the website, they like click on the button, and the other user is the developer. So let's say you're making a reusable library, a developer is going to use it. So you just want to assert like, okay, developer like uses this component, this will happen. They would pass this prop, this will happen. But you shouldn't like test like internals because that changes when you refactor. It's gonna you don't need to like change the test when you refactor. And the testing pyramid is like a guiding principle. Like, should you write like more unit tests, like more integration end to end? And the testing pyramid basically is like just write like mostly integration. So you have like a bunch of like pieces hooked together. It's just about like trade-offs. Like if you're like fewer tests and like with all the pieces hooked together, then you don't have to write as many tests and you have like more confidence that it works. So just a bit like how I, in my weird brain, I imagine tests is that like this like when they build cars, they have like special room where they can like speed up the car and like hit the brakes and the car is just like staying on the same place. But they get like measurements that it took 2 seconds to brake or whatever. And this like another way I conceptualize like when you're building a building, first you build the scaffold. You don't like take a ladder and you fix like the window. Like you take more time to like build the scaffold, and then after that it's easy. Like you want to go to this corner of the building, but the main points of this is that like you do some upfront work, right? Like they had to build this room, they had to build the scaffold, and after that the work became much easier. So there's like some upfront cost. And so that's important to like keep in mind when you decide like, am I gonna do like testing? Suppose like you've never done before, or like a project doesn't have, and you're just there to like fix one bug. Probably just don't do testing. Just like fix the bug and go away. But for other one, maybe a project you're gonna like work long term, and maybe it's worth to like take your time and like learn it as you go. And there's like other things like there you can have like your own testing strategy. Like I have my own opinionated way how I like to do a test, so I'll show you that like in the example. And I put in edge cases because sometimes like there's like a trade-off like how many tests you want to write and like how many like edge cases you're going to cover. So there's like sweet spot. It's like a lot of like judgment call. I usually like to test like happy path and like one like error path, like broadly speaking, but it's like always like case by case. Foundation. So this is not like for writing tests, but it's very important to mention like linter and mainly the linter is like really like it just for me it's like no brainer. Just use it because there's like I don't know you have like a bug from like trying to use a variable before you define it, things like that. So in my mind, it kind of goes in the testing category, like helps you catch bugs, and it basically costs you nothing. Like it's like underlined in red, like okay, like there's a thing. Um, okay, so how I do testing. My favorite libraries is testing library and mock service worker. So testing library basically it has like functions that like you can. I'll show you in the code actually, but I want to just mention about virtual DOM. The virtual DOM is like when you do you start up your app like in the real browser and you open like the forms. This is the real DOM. So there's like a bunch of functions like for example like handling like drag and drop, handling all the things. But virtual DOM is different. It's actually there's no like browser, there's no nothing, and they just kind of simulate a bunch of functions like they kind of simulate on click. It's not the real on click, so it makes the test run like much faster. But there's a few things that you can't do in the virtual DOM. Otherwise, you can do like end-to-end tests where like the program like starts the real browser and like clicks it. That can like go around, but it's like much slower. So I recommend like for the majority of the tests to use the virtual DOM. And okay, typical test. Yeah, so basically, when I design like a test, I think in terms of like kind of human logic. Like, okay, a person comes to this page, and the page like made a request to like I don't know, let's say it's like a user management system. Like they fetch the users, and then he clicks on the user, and like he wants to edit the name, press submit. You should make a request to like change the name. So okay, I think like logically what it should do, and then I just like fill it in. Yeah, so I start like on a page. API, like mocking the API endpoints, like a big part of it. Almost every test that I write uses this. User actions, like they click or they should see the changes or whatever, and then expecting network requests, like almost each test that I make sure that it made the correct request with the correct like parameters and everything. Okay, so here we go with the code example. Do I take question now, later? Okay, I'll just like rapid fire like everything, and I'll take like question at the end. Uh, oh, do you guys see? Make it bigger. Yeah, just gonna show. Okay. Um. Okay, we're gonna go with the simple test first. This plus. Yeah. Bit more. Okay. Okay. Bam. So this is a simple test. So this is a program that I work on in my day to day. So there's like a content management system. You can like create content that's gonna be like shown and like upload videos. You can like manage users, etc., etc. So let's suppose that I'm coming in here and I decide, okay, I want to make sure that there's no bugs in like creating content. So just like going through like the logical like human logic piece. So one thing I could decide to test is that, okay, I arrive here and I see the content that exists, right? So and then I can like press this add content button, and then I expect that I have like an input. I can put like a title of a new content, let's say SDF. And just because this is production, I'm gonna put it like hidden. Yay, testing in production. And bam, so I save, and like it made a network request, so I want to make sure that that request is correct. And then as a bonus, I guess I would count this as optional, that like it made the request to like post it, and then it should like fetch it again, and you can see the content that you created. So what this would look like in the test itself. So this is the dashboard, like the page itself. And in here, I'm like mocking. Here it's like, okay, pretend that you're hitting the API and it returns this. So it returns like my content. And this I created like a utility function. If you want, I can like show the code like behind this, but it's like basically like just mocking the get request. Other requests that that page makes that we don't really care about. And then I like preload state. So sometimes like you, the page itself, actually it might be worth to show like render content with preloaded state. So I passed like, so for example, like in this page, in this component, like I'm logged in, but this is not the component that you log in with. It just kind of takes the logged in user from the parent. So in the test, like we don't care about that. We just like pass the logged in user straight away. So we're like, we're kind of passing like a provider state provider with like the state already logged in, as if we already made like a login request and it passed and your user is there already. Boom. So that's the other one. So I render with the preloaded state with like the current user, which is the admin on my platform. And then I click here, like actions 1, 2, 3, that would be like this. So some of the selectors, so you can like select by text, but this one doesn't have text, so I just put like an ID. Then I call like edit action, then like the content ID. And then I click like duplicate. So in this case, like what I'm actually testing is, go away, they're pressing this button, and then it like pre-populates with the content title with dash copy. And add new content. So basically I'm just like pressing duplicate, and then I assert that like the title of the form is there, that like we open the form, and then I just press save. So it's just like super dumb, like, okay, I just duplicate and save. And then I expect like that I see the success message, and that this is the key part is like that it made the request correctly. Um, so yeah, it just goes through like all the code and like makes the request. So I use like some mocking. This is more like technical detail. I don't know if it's worth going into like that. I mock my library that makes the post request. So I just mock it here, and then I just assert like I expect that you made the post request with these arguments. And in my opinion, it's like good enough. You could probably have like other strategies, but in my opinion, this is the best. And so I go like at different levels. Like in this test, I just go like at the whole page. Like you arrive, you fetch the content, you can like edit it. But then I wanted to also make like more like fine grain. Like what if I'm just in this form, and then like I have like different combinations. Like I don't know, I want to make the content hidden, or like one example is like if I have like
Put that at the bottom.
bam, thank you. So sometimes like there's like um, yeah, like some of them like go away depending on which content you have. So I create like another file that's just like a more narrow test. And in this one, so I have like for like video upload, there's like different behavior. For article, there's different behavior. So I just like make kind of like judgment call, like should I like test a reduced case, or like which I it's um, just going from the principle of like what would give me how much confidence do I need, and like how much like test code I want to write, because I don't want like the testing suite to be like all like so long. So I try to find like the right balance. Um, and I have like a more complex example. I don't know if I want to go through it. Hmm. Okay, might as well go all the way. So this is another. There's like a bit of a story behind this. This was like the first. So I was like learning, like I told you about, like for over a couple of months, and this was like the first project that I like wrote like full on like tests, not just like tinkering, because they were like falling behind, and with the scaffolding around it, it helped me to like make it like much more stable, and we saved like so much time over the long run. So in this case, like it's more like complex flow that includes like uploading a CSV. So what this does, like you're filling in something. So you're like uploading a CSV here, and I have a bunch. Like for example, okay, one of them is invalid. Um, this company, like they do like energy inspections on homes. So you like import a CSV of like a bunch of homes, and it like parses it and like, okay, you said that the home has Energy Star, but you didn't say how many volts or whatever. So there's like a bunch of validation here. And are you sure? Blah blah blah. And it tells you like, okay, your CSV is wrong for XYZ reason. And so there's like a bunch of like things following each other, and like testing manually. There's like a bunch of like edge cases. Like there's like the happy path, and there's like different kinds of errors. So every time like we made a change, we had to like go back and like do each path, and it was like quite tedious because you have like upload again the CSV, and you have to have like multiple different CSVs, and it's just a pain. So what I did in this one, this was like a very experimental thing. Like, how do I like test the CSV? This is where the like wish list came in. I was like, okay, like uploading a CSV and parsing it, like, can I mock it out? Like, it just took some time to figure out. So I tried like different like entry points, and what I end up with is, so I kept kind of like the virtual DOMs like behavior of like you upload the file, but it's like not a real file. It's just like smiley face in the file contents. Bam. And what I mocked out is like the library that comes after that like just takes a CSV and gives you like a array of objects. So there's like a specific library for parsing CSV. And so that was like the harder part to figure out. And after that, it's just like you click the button, you like go to the next screen, you see the error message, etc. So sometimes like you might come across like things like that that's like, and like drag and drop like gave me like such a hard time, and I decided to just like test like what came before and what came after. And that piece I just like put a comment like tested manually and it's okay. And so for this one, like I just mocked out like that piece that like you upload the CSV and like there's the content. I just like console log, like when I use the real app and I upload a CSV, like what's the output of the library that parses it. And then I just like grab that and put in the mock. And then I just put like, okay, you click like next screen. You expect to see like the back button. You expect to see like the error, like warning. Are you sure to confirm like some of the fields in the CSV were not mapped? It's like, okay, you didn't map the address field. Like, are you sure you want to continue, for example? And then like you have one invalid. So that helped like a lot to capture it. So I just made like one test for like actually going through the screen like from start to end, and then I make like longer tests, just unit tests on just the function that you pass the array of like houses, and it gives like, okay, there's an error or there's no error. So that one, like I don't need to like spin up like the page again, and it's like a pure function. So it's much easier to test like a bunch of like different scenarios. So in the philosophy, like you use like mostly integration tests, and in like specific cases like this, it makes sense to do like unit tests for business logic. So just pure function that does like something like this, you know, when you have like some complex logic that's just business, it's better to like isolate that function and just test it. And the rest of the time I just test like the screen as I'm thinking like I'm the user. I arrive on the page, I'm clicking these buttons, and this request should be made. And let's see. And honorable mentions, Tiago Forte was like really helpful for like, I mentioned at the start the mental load. Learning test was like helped a lot, but also like learning proper knowledge management. It's like the example of like the testing wish list. That helped like a lot. So I'll show you like my example of like my testing wish list. Bam. Oops. So for example, I'm just like working and like I get annoyed, like how come my linter allows like invalid imports? And I try to figure out, like it took half an hour, like okay, I don't know, it's time to move on. I just dump it in here. And like every once in a while, like I take some time, like what can I like work on? I have like some free time right now. And I like put like a fulfilled wishes like section. There's more.
Way shorter list.
I know. I didn't move. It's very organic. I just put them there sometime. I edit them. So there's actually way more fulfilled wishes.
I know.
So that was like the Tiago Forte guy. Like it really helped to shape the thinking, knowledge management. And what else to say? Oh, where's my? Anyway. Another honorable mention, Nicolas Carla with like refactoring. I learned so much from refactoring, because a lot of times what happens is that you have some like code that you want to test, and it's not like testable, you know, it's just not well written. Like for example, you have like a business case, but it's like um, it doesn't have like proper responsibilities. So like using safe refactoring techniques was like definitely yeah. Sometimes you have to refactor before you can even start to test. So that's like a whole thing. And JB Rainsberger, I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but he brought like the concept of chunking, basically like practicing until it becomes automatic, and like taking the half hour a day to try the thing, um, instead of like saying like, hey, like can you give me like time to do refactoring? So yeah, standing on the shoulders of giants. I think that's about it for a presentation. If you have questions, now would be the time. Nor.
I have a question and a comment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with a comment. I think with the drag and drop, you don't actually have to test the drag and drop because that's supposed to be like responsibility of the library you're using.
Yes.
So as long as you test the before and after, it's fine.
Yes. So testing, yeah, the drag and drop itself. I'm not testing that. You have a good point. Like that, the libraries, like they already kind of you offload the responsibility to them, but it's like the whole like connecting the whole piece. It's better like if you test that like I arrive on the page, I drag and drop, and the page makes like the request. That would be like more ideal because it's more like the real like what happens in like the human logic.
But at that point, aren't you doing something that other like is supposed to be done by the library?
They
It's a big debate. I mean, it depends on the level of your testing.
Yeah.
Because at the end-to-end level, you test that everything fits together correctly, right? But yes, if you're testing, um, you're not going to test the drag and drop library itself. But you're going to test your interaction.
but like the drag and drop library, basically what they do is like you pass it an array of objects, and when the user drags and drop, it returns an array in a different order. But what you do with this array after that, it could be just as simple as like you just pass the array to the like backend, but you can do like other things. So if it's like just simple that like you pass it, you can make the decision like, okay, I'm not gonna test. It's just like it's probably fine. I tested manually once, it's okay. But in many cases, I have like more complex logic, so it's worth testing.
So the question is, did you do like do you do TDD or did you do the
Yeah, good
first
question.
and then make the test side of the software?
It's like a question of habit. Um, I got in the habit of like doing TDD, and it's like works really good. And then I do like the whole UI after at the end, and that workflow works really good. But sometimes I'm just like, oh, like whatever, and I like add the test after, which is still good because like I end up like catching some things, or just like I put the scaffolding on the house after I build it. So it's like still okay, I guess. So it depends, I guess.
Just to follow up with Noor's comment, another way you can test drag and drop functionality is, and this is rare, but if the drag and drop works with keyboard input, where it's like, spacebar to like pick up and then like
Yeah.
keys, that's more easy to do in like unit or integration testing and testing keyboard accessibility, which is great.
I heard of that. That was one of the things of like half an hour, like okay, half an hour to like okay, it just doesn't work. And then I heard that okay, you could do like spacebar, and I tried for half an hour, and it also didn't work, and I'm not sure why. But the half an hour elapsed, so I'm like, okay, just put it back to the wish list.
Yeah, and sometimes the problem is the JS DOM, the simulation of the browser in Node.js doesn't implement the entire browser implementation. So
Yeah,
I've run into that before.
that could be the case. So I might come back to it or not.
But I wanted to ask about mock service worker. So I
Okay.
saw you were doing mocking of
Yeah.
Axios, but not using mock service worker. So I'm guessing in other instances. So my question with mock service worker is, I mostly mocked at the service level, so like wrap around Axios, like services that, like your content service or your user service or something like that. I've just mocked those out.
Uh-huh.
But then it gets a little bit tedious mocking the responses per test
Yep.
or per test file. And one of the things I wanted to try, but I've never tried with mock service worker is just like having kind of specific routes that always return the same thing. So you kind of lose a little flexibility per test, but at least you don't have to rewrite the mocks in every test. Have you ever explored any of either of those?
Yeah, I went down like that's another like article I didn't mention about from Ken Dodds that he says that it makes more sense to have like the whole context of the test in the test. So like everything, every endpoint, API endpoint that's going to be mocked, you know about it like in the first like lines, and to me that makes more sense. But it's fine too. Like if you want to make like the same like response for like the standard endpoints, that's okay.
And the reason you wanted to use mock service worker, was it to expand the boundaries of your test so you're not mocking at the Axios level?
Yeah, that's right. It's whenever you can, it's like better to mock to go like the more you go like at the implementation detail, like the more you're gonna have to change it. So if you go like higher, like mock service worker is great because it doesn't matter if you use like fetch or Axios or whatever. It's like it mocks out the service worker. So I don't know if maybe some of you don't get it. If you want, I can go in details, but it's okay. Probably. Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Did you write
Are we
like
okay?
end-to-end test?
Yeah, I wrote some end-to-end tests with like Cypress. I didn't show them today, but I find that I prefer like way more integration because like the end-to-end tests they like take longer. First of all, that's like the biggest thing for sure, and they can be like brittle. You have to do like extra setup. Like, are we going to use like a fake database so that every time is the same like responses that come back? So there's like you need to like build the room with like the car tracks again. Like you need to think about it, and I figured it wasn't worth it to like spend more time to design it.
And where do you draw the line between like end-to-end and integration test? Because the integration test you just show like seems to be more like for me, like for example, more into end-to-end test because it's like more showing and testing a user workflow, for example.
Yeah.
And where do you draw the line between those?
Yeah, for me, like the key is really the confidence, and like the JS DOM, like the virtual DOM, like the fake thing. It seems to work like good for like just clicks and like showing things on a page. So I figure it's fine. Like I wrote I told you that I wrote the end-to-end tests, but really like I don't really use them. And some teams might decide that they want to use them if like they have like reasoning that it makes sense. I'll be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. But for me, like the integration tests, they just work like more than good enough for my needs.
And something to answer your question. In short, end-to-end tests, you're automating what you would test manually. So the Cypress or Playwright, for example, very popular. You run your application, and then with something else, you go and visit the pages in the browser, etc. And you can see that when it runs, it opens the browser and navigates and act as a user. You automate what you would do manually.
And you can do drag and drop.
Yes.
Versus what we showed was more, okay, I'm writing code and I'm attacking and I'm using virtual DOM. So it's not actually running the server and rendering in the browser. It's fake. So it's closer to the code, but he's still testing like use cases.
And that's a good point. And I will add to that what I've noticed that having these like integration tests that give me a lot of confidence and unlock that like my manual testing became like different in nature. It became more like exploratory. Like I was trying to like find like edge cases. Like what if I click like really fast on the button like 3 times? It makes like 3 times the request. Like, okay, maybe I should fix that. So like because I'm confident that my integration test like catch the basics, then I can like go beyond.
Maybe you have also the quicker answer and
Yes.
feedback of your integration test than the end-to-end test, for example.
For sure. I didn't get back into like the benefits, but like quick feedback loop is definitely one of the benefits.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just want to respond to your question and add some nuance. I think you could look at it from who is the user, but you can also look at it as like what are the boundaries of the thing you're testing, whether it be like a unit, a component. And so for me, end to end, which is like where are the ends, where are the boundaries, right? So you could think about you have a front end web application with a backend server, which also communicates with the database. If all of those things are included in your system under test, to me that's like the farthest you could stretch the ends of your test, right? And then at the other end of the spectrum, there's the unit, right? It's like a pure function, and you're testing the input and then the output of the function. It's like the smallest level of the boundary. And to me, like integration is anywhere in between that, right? But I think the terms are really used. There's a wide variety of the way people are using the terms because you have frameworks like Cypress, Playwright, which are called end-to-end frameworks. But then a lot of times they're testing with mocked APIs. So your boundary is the front end. So they're just doing the front end, right? And what are they using? They're using the actual browser versus Jest and React Testing Library, which are using JS DOM, which is simulating the browser in Node.js. So you have all these different factors, right? Like what's the engine that you're running your code on, and then what are the boundaries of the code, and that's kind of how I like to see those without actually conscious or an actual definition of like what it is, because it means so many different things to so many different people. Like what is end-to-end, what is integration, what is unit. But to me, it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
For me, I don't have the same like limits about like end-to-end. For example, about this sort of test, like it would be like more about like business user end user workflow that you can do and test, and more. And for me, it should be more in the end-to-end because it show more the reality about the user. And because when you show a dialogue and you navigate to your app, it's like really became to be complicated. That's the reason why I prefer like to use like end-to-end test, for example, and I use more like integration test for testing components together. Because like any meaning with the whole page, for example. But it depends really on your strategy and what's you think. I think it's also good to have like this line specific to each company, like and to show like the same guidelines. But
Yeah. It's like not. Don't get like too hung up on the like what you call it. Like if you come up with your strategy that you feel good about and you go with that, like it's more a pragmatic approach. All right.
Conclusion. We just stop here.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks.
Congratulations.